When it comes to hardcore Total War campaigns, Total War Attila reigns absolutely supreme. But luckily, this brilliant copy has its very own masterpiece original, namely Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion. Absolutely legendary for its time, and even today, Barbarian Invasion remains a unique piece of Total War and strategy history for one main reason. It was the first game in the series to completely flip the script on its head. And by the way, while I have you here, only 6% of you watching this video are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy my content, guys, it would just mean so much to me if you took the time to make a simple click and sub to the channel. It goes a long way in helping my content reach further, and hopefully also help you in knowing when there's new content to be enjoyed. I'd really appreciate it. Very little from the golden era of Total War games can top the original Rome campaign, but Barbarian Invasion, the first and arguably the only massive expansion for the game, definitely tried its very best. Whereas the original Grand Campaign begins around the time of the Second Punic War and sees the rise of Rome on the world stage, beginning with small factions, Barbarian Invasion does the exact opposite. Set during what might be called the twilight of the Empire, this is a campaign depicting late antiquity. Rome has been master of the known world for centuries, although internal strife and the odd barbarian and Sassanid incursion has made things difficult. That's why Rome does not begin as a unified empire, but rather as two independent halves. The Western Roman Empire with its center in Italy, and the Eastern Roman Empire, its heart centered in Constantinople. As is clear from the very beginning, these empires, even when cut in half, are absolutely gigantic. Beginning as allies and trading partners, they stretch from Britain to Syria, dominating the vast majority of this entire map. That's partly why I found this campaign so damn interesting and intriguing, because if you want to play as the Romans, you begin as the dominant masters of this world. You're richer, larger, and more powerful than anyone out there, and on a personal and historical level, it's just so fascinating to me that a mighty empire willfully decided to split apart like this. Of course, mighty is highly relative in Barbarian Invasion, and this is one game where size actually matters not. This is a world in enough change, where a new religion meets the old, where generals may change the history of entire regions, and where established empires stand on the brink of ruin when smaller but numerous barbarian invasions do be invading. There are, in fact, two belts of awakening, Roman empires. And as such, you might intuitively think they play the same, but you could in fact not be more mistaken. The Eastern Roman Empire is the pinnacle of Roman stability during this time, even though the influence of Christianity does ruffle some feathers. But for the most part, things are stable. Your population is doing quite well, and controlling the wealthy and peaceful lands of Greece and Egypt does give you an upper hand. Threats do lurk on the horizon in the north as hordes make themselves seen though, but the main threat remains in the east, where the rival Sassanid Empire continues to be a thorn in your side. But this is nothing compared to the dangers facing the Western Roman Empire. Oh jeez, oh boy. This is where the boys turn to men, alright, where girls turn to women, and where the barbarians get to test the Romans' flight or fight response. Because this is serious shit. At first glance, the Western Roman Empire looks even more powerful than the Eastern. It's larger, it's colored red, and it controls Rome, a perfect disguise for when you want to look mighty. But the color red fools you. It draws you in, puts a smile on your face, until all you see are red faces. You see, much more so than the Eastern Romans, the Western Empire is rampant with religious strife, overpopulation, and a lack of funding for public projects. The empire is falling apart from within, with various generals influencing the local religion in their provinces, while the emperor struggles to remain in full control. Indeed, the internal instability will cause rival Roman factions to rise up, forcing you to squash pretenders to the legacy of Rome. More than that, the barbarians are very much at the gates, and the Huns and the Goths, although far away at the moment, will make a rapid advance. The Western Roman Empire campaign in Barbarian Invasion is so damn cool to me, even today, because of how different it was. Again, this remains a massive challenge for any decent Total War player if you don't cheese the game, because it not only forces you to prioritize which parts of your empire to defend or maintain, but also that you're just a damn good player, or at the very least one that's willing to learn and adapt as you go. This is a campaign about loss and reconquests, about overcoming challenges, and about keeping on moving forward even when you're actually facing defeat after defeat. Because that's all part of it. Instead of feeling that initial high of conquering your first village, love Segesta, you have to deal with the feeling of loss right away, of overwhelming odds stacked against you. And if you live for that masochistic shit like I do, I mean if you truly love getting your stepped on, yelled at, and just until you're a single inch away from there's no better feeling in this whole series we so fondly call Total War than to return from the brink, to soar from the ashes, and to proudly proclaim, "F me? No, 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 no. F you." And that is the essence of the Western Roman Empire campaign. There is of course more to this expansion than the Romans. It is after all called Barbarian Invasion. In fact, most of the factions in Barbarian Invasions are barbarian in nature, perhaps except for the Sassanids, which really is the only non-Roman empire present, located as they are to the very east of the map. We did have barbarians in the original Rome campaign too, of course, but the Gauls of antiquity do not equal the Franks, the Goths, or the Huns of late antiquity. And the main reason for this is Barbarian Invasion's horde mechanic, which, by the way, perhaps also remains the single best feature and inheritance of Total War Attila. It works a tad differently in Barbarian Invasion though, but is still great. The horde mechanics works in the following ways. Beginning as a faction like the Huns sees you begin as a horde. This means you have no cities, no income, but also no expenses, and you begin with a massive army able to move across vast distances fast. Gaining money is a matter of sacking foreign cities, which enables you to pay for potential mercenaries. However, actually settling down in occupied cities will deplete your armies, and if you have conquered 3 territories, then your faction is no longer a horde. Alternatively, you may begin as a non-horde barbarian faction and leave your homeland, either by having your last settlement conquered or leaving your last city voluntarily. If you're playing as the Romans then, this makes it that much harder to get rid of the barbarians, as once they lose their last city, their people will simply gather into armies and are able to either migrate to another place or get back to you rather quickly. Alternatively, this gives you something of an edge as a barbarian faction, kind of like a last chance to survive and hit back should things go south for your governed lands. Playing as a horde therefore significantly changes up your gameplay style, as you need to figure out where you want to go and actually settle down. Each faction has a certain historical homeland the game wants you to occupy of course, but getting there is another matter, and for your own sake, it's probably a good idea to do as much sacking and pillaging as possible on the way there. Other than being dynamic as factions in this way, the barbarians also benefit from being smaller and far away from the religious conflict in the Roman Empire. This makes governing public order much easier, at least in the beginning, but can of course be more challenging either when the Romans come to you, or when you begin invading Roman lands where both pagans and Christians are present. Back in the day, one of the first things I noticed about this game was the Western Roman crossbow unit. It's a minor thing in the grand scheme of things, but to me, it really signified the change in time period compared to the original campaign. And I really like that even though we're playing a continuation of the same empire, that this actually feels like a campaign taking place in a time when the Roman Empire had to adapt. The late Roman armies are a bit more medieval in nature, a bit less standardized looking than those legionaries of old, and it might just be me, but I just love those shields painted with the Chi-Rho symbol, as it just feels like that newer, late antiquity Christian era of the Roman Empire has really set in. As always though, the Romans like it best when they can fight in an orderly fashion, and pound the barbarians to Elysium. But that's not as easy when the hordes come on horseback, and especially when they have archers on top. In essence, I'd say the Roman factions mostly play the same as they did back in the original campaign, and the settled barbarians play similarly to each other. A bit wilder and more rabid than the Romans, I'd say. The Huns and the Roxolani is probably where you'll find the most new and unique though, as those hit and run tactics can really mess with the more established, old-style factions. There is no new soundtrack made for the Barbarian Invasion campaign, but for some reason, it never bothered me. I find that the original Rome Total War music fit just as well in this campaign, and seeing as it's already so beautiful, it's something I'll let slide without a complaint, which honestly just says how good this music is to begin with. And truly, the visuals too still remain strong, especially in the remastered version. If you want to make it look even better though, you have at least 2 choices. You can download RTR IS standalone graphics mod, which will make that map really pop, and the same goes for the battlefields. Or you can download the Barbaris Mundi campaign map overhaul, which significantly expands this map and makes the campaign that much bigger. There's also the Fall of Rome mod, which adds a bunch of new units to the game. But in the end, the vanilla Barbarian Invasion campaign does remain a classic, And even though Attila is an overall better and more complex campaign today, Barbarian Invasion remains charming, beautiful in its simplicity, and perhaps the most original and daring Total War campaign ever, at least for its time. Let me know your thoughts on the Barbarian Invasion campaign in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and sub to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!